You've heard of crisis management? Things go south, something breaks bad, somebody says something stupid in your company, like the boss, and all of a sudden you're tasked with managing the crisis. Why doesn't it always work out? Why does it rarely work out? Why does crisis management not actually manage a crisis?
Welcome, everyone. I must apologize for dragging you all here at such an uncommon hour, but from what I've been told, this matter needs to be dealt with urgently. So urgently, in fact, probably should have been addressed weeks ago.
When it happens, we're overwhelmed. We're blindsided. We don't know what to do. We try to apply our best skills, best practices to try to tamper down all of the anxiety and fear and all of the hatred and comments that come our way and the bad Yelp reviews. You know what it's like. But not only does it not work, it's the wrong solution. It's the wrong answer to a crisis. Instead of crisis management, we need to practice crisis leadership.
Maybe you could tell me what you think is going on here. And please, speak as you might to a young child or a golden retriever. It wasn't brains that got me here, I can assure you of that.
Hi, I'm James Callahan, and this is The Do-Over Show. And in my professional career in marketing and nonprofit fundraising and in communications, I've encountered the problem over and over again that something happens that I didn't see coming. The company didn't see coming. The organization, the boss, somebody stepped in it. Now they look at me and they say, fix it. Fix it? I didn't do it. But it becomes our job to do something about it. To a person, the PR response, the playbook is to manage. That is to subdue, to mollify, to quiet all the storm, to put out the fire so it's just glowing embers. Whatever analogy you want to use, people look at you and they say, make it go away. Here's the problem. It doesn't go away.
Let me tell you something, Mr. Sullivan. Do you care to know why I'm in this chair with you all? I mean, why I earn the big bucks?
After all the months and effort and investment and hard work of teams and teams of people, a simple, silly, stupid, ignorant, biased, bigoted, whatever it is comment can derail everyone's good work. All of our leadership gurus and coaching and professional development and team leadership advice goes out the window. And this reaction is normal and understandable, and it's our default, and it's wrong. So when something goes wrong, and I promise you, it will go wrong at some time, the first time the little things will become huge. Now, if you face the crisis management with an awakened amygdala as an ordinary course of your life, like if you're in politics or, yeah, you know who you are, then I can't help you. You live off the fever of excitement and anger and animosity and comments that are negative, and snark is your default dialogue. I get it. I can't help you. Crisis leadership, though, are for people that don't want to jump from fire to fire, from problem to problem, and who actually want to just do a good day's work, do good work, encourage their teams, build up professionally and personally themselves and their teams, and to actually be a leader instead of somebody who is managing. You know the difference. When things go wrong, we stop leading and we revert to managing, micromanaging, making sure everything is exactly the way we want it. And we remove all of the freedom and all the creativity and all the development that we've invested in people. It goes out the window, all those seminars, all those retreats, all those whiteboard sessions, all of it out the window. And we become control freaks. What crisis management does is it exposes our weakness. It exposes our weaknesses. It's embarrassing for leaders, but it's necessary for most of us because we don't know how to lead in a crisis. But you know what's not necessary about crisis management? The management part of it. And for most of us, there's nothing else to do except try to make the crisis go away rather than living with the crisis. Yeah, you heard me. Crisis leadership doesn't deny that it exists, like we lack object permanence and we're like an ostrich or a little baby that when you take something away, they go, oh, where'd it go? No, it's not just to make it go away. Crisis leadership looks at it and says, yep, that's a problem. Now, what are you going to do? Instead of trying to make it go away, lead. Let me give you an example. It was a very busy night, Friday night at a local pizzeria. Well, you know, you live in the Chicago area, you know that you get your pizza. If you want this topping, you go to that place. If you want this crust, you go to that place. And there's this little mom and pop shop. It's an old place. They have a small oven, and every once in a while they get slammed. But I called them up and I said, yeah, I'd like to order a pizza for pickup. If you know, you know. What's with this delivery stuff? Get in a car and drive there. And by the way, if they say it's going to be ready in 30 minutes, show up in 25. Pizza will be hot. There's your pro tip. But this time I got a call and they said, before I place my order, hey, we're really busy tonight and this might take up to an hour and a half to get your pizza. Are you okay with that? What did they do? They didn't deny the problem. They didn't complain about it. They didn't shut off the phones and not take my order. They said, look, if you want this, this is what's involved. It's going to be up to 90 minutes. Are you okay with that? Me, I said, I'm okay with that. And I was okay with that. I can kill time. I can do something else. I can eat a snack between now and when I'm going to actually get my pizza. It was a different response. Most of us in crisis management mode will shut off the phone. We'll tell people we're not taking orders, or we'll deny it altogether and we'll get complaining customers. Not this pizzeria. When I walked in, instead of a person hiding behind a desk, they were out in front with a room of waiting customers, interacting and talking with each one, taking their names. Can I get your name? Writing their names down. What does that make you feel like? It makes you feel like you're seen, you're heard. They know you're there. They know who you are. Look, your pizza is coming up. I'm going to go check on it right now. And the person went back, didn't hide, came right back out and said, we're still working on it. It's going to be a few minutes. Are you okay with that? Reaffirming that I had agreed to it, that is calling me on it. You said you were okay with it. Are you still okay with it? That was crisis leadership. And by the way, it wasn't an apology. They didn't say, I can't do anything about it. They knew what they could do about it. They could make my damn pizza, and they did it. Apologizing, thinking it makes a problem go away or it's managing a crisis, simply shows weakness. Now, I know there's a legal aspect to this. Sometimes the lawyer tells you, don't apologize because you're admitting guilt. But we're talking pizzas here, or most of what we deal with. Sometimes you just have to say, you know what? That was a stupid thing to say. Be more honest, or at least as honest as the criticism that's coming your way. That shows that you're leading. Crisis management for most of us is a missed opportunity, and it's all we ever do. We manage the crisis and we miss the opportunity to lead. Instead, every crisis is a chance to provide leadership. Whoever said never let a good crisis go to waste? People credit Winston Churchill with that, but some say Rahm Emanuel. Google him and you'll find a video from 2008.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.
It's our failure to lead and our default to managing. And that is the common human response, that we just want to control it in order to try to subdue it, instead of embracing it, holding it close, saying, I see what you see, and this is a problem. So here's a list of the basics that I put together in my life as a leader, in leading teams, in hiring people, in managing them, in professional and personal development, and things that I've applied to my own life. Here's the list. First of all, you must say something. You can't just not say or ignore things to avoid drawing attention to a crisis. It's a crisis. Talk about it. The second thing is you can't wait it out. You can't think it'll pass. Like an ostrich lacking object permanency, when it disappears, the problem, it won't go away. Third, it's real and it's hurting your team. They feel it even if you refuse to admit it. Fourth, it's embarrassing, mostly to you and sometimes to the weak links on your team, especially the people who bear the responsibility for it, and the finger pointing that will take place. Yes, it's embarrassing. 5, you can't just blame someone else. You can't blame someone on your team or an enemy from the outside or a Karen or your competitors or evil actors behind bad reviews or comments, or that the universe is out to get you. You can't just blame someone else. The 6th thing is you don't need someone else to fail to make your crisis go away. The dog wagging the tail analogy. You don't need somebody to make an even worse mistake so that it takes attention away from you. That's a cop-out. That's cheap. That's not leadership. That's escapism. The next thing is you're probably not afraid of the right things in the midst of your crisis. You're afraid of the flare-up at the moment, but you're not afraid of the things that really are at the heart of it. Like, why did it happen? And why is the reaction to it so poor within your team that you invested so much in? Let me give you an example. Most of us are afraid of sharks more than we're afraid of hippos. Sharks kill 25 to 35 people a year throughout the world. I know it's bad for the people who die, but 500 people a year are killed every year on the African continent. But you're not afraid of hippos. We're not afraid of the right things. And learning to be afraid of the right things, like, why are we not prepared for this? That's a leadership question. The next thing is, explaining yourself is not going to solve the problem. It's not going to CYA. It's not going to give people a reason, well, I didn't see this, or somebody else did that, so I'm clear. Explaining away the problem doesn't make the problem go away. And by the way, trying to explain yourself to people who are in the midst of a crisis on your team or outside accusing you of mishandling things, that's going to be something that if they don't get it, they won't get your explanation. They're not listening for an explanation. And a crisis management response is, I've got a good explanation. And it never works. And in that moment, you have to ask yourself the difficult question. What can we do now in this moment to upskill? What can we do? Not after the problem goes away, but right now. What kind of stretch can we make to upskill the team so that we can grow during the crisis, not just cover up the wound and let it scab over and hopefully never go away, which is what crisis management does. Don't think that the emotional difficulties experienced by the team go away. That will leave a scar on your team. Give credit where credit is due, and that credit is not yours to own. Nope, you always give other people credit. A good leader works for their team, not the other way around. Reverse the social hierarchy, the power hierarchy that exists within your team, and you'll be a leader for a change. We do not get to take credit when we get to manage a crisis and subdue it or suffocate it and make it go away. Instead, if the problem eases, if we've taken proactive steps, if we've done concrete things, then you give credit to the people who have done that hard work and have learned in the midst of a crisis. Over-communicate. Yep, don't over-explain, don't mansplain everything, but if you catch yourself saying, you need to understand, then you don't understand. And you are the one who needs to do some more understanding. More understanding? Yeah, you know what I mean. That is, over-explaining is important. That is to narrate it, but not telling people you don't understand because I'm smart and I see, but you don't see. That will only compound the problem. Be grateful. Don't just say thank you, but say thank you because. Try it. Say thank you because you took this step, you did this, you stepped up, you grew in this moment, you stretched yourself, and that helped us get through this, and we learned through this. And then say, articulate what it is that was learned, and say thank you for being the person that made that happen in this team. Number 15, make a promise. Make promises in the midst of a crisis. Not promises you can't keep, not pie in the sky things that will never happen, like this will never happen again, because it probably will. Instead, make a promise that's keepable. Say, look, we're going to do this. I'm going to call you by next Wednesday. And then you call them on Monday or Tuesday. And then you remind them, hey, I promised I'd follow up with this. I said I'd do it by Wednesday. It's Monday. What you're telling them is that I can be trusted. I'm keeping my promise. Make those small promises and develop that and have other people on your team do it. The next thing to encourage people to experience in this is ABC. Your new ABC is always be courageous. If it doesn't take courage to do something, it's not crisis leadership. It's crisis management. If it takes courage to do something, then you're stretching yourself. Then people on your team are growing and learning. That, ABC, always be courageous. If you feel this takes courage to do, this is stretching me, that's crisis leadership. Number 19 is, in the midst of this crisis, care enough to listen. Don't say, oh, we don't have time to discuss this now. You have to discuss it. Now, if all you do is discuss it, you're going to circle the airport and never land until you run out of fuel. That's just bad crisis management. But in the moment, there has to be listening. But here's the thing with the listening. Listening works when you actually do it. That is, when someone says something, you don't just say, good, take care of that from on high. Instead, you say, let's go do it. Yeah, you and me, let's do it. You do it alongside them. You do it with them. You do it with them there. You show them the way forward. And this brings us to number 20, and that is make a plan before it happens. Yeah, take time now. Look at it and say, okay, I'm going to look ahead and I have a scenario or two. I can see this could go wrong, this could go wrong. We could have a bad reaction here. Not the kind of irrational stuff, but the kind of things that you can actually look at and say, yeah, I see other people experiencing that problem. Don't be ignorant of the problems of the plans that you make, or your strategic plans, your long-term plans, your 1, 3, 5, 10-year plans, your growth development plans. Don't be ignorant of that. What if somebody on your team leaves, but that person is essential to your team, and they leave, and all of a sudden it's a crisis in your team because you didn't think people could quit? Of course they can quit. Anticipate that. Don't just downsize their importance. Let them be important, but also realize I've got to cross-train. I've got to get other people on board with this. Have a plan. Have a plan to what we're going to do. That is, we're going to own it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to address it. We're going to have concrete steps. You're going to be involved. You're going to be part of the solution. You're not going to put it off on them. You're not going to blame them. You're not going to stop talking about it. But you're not going to over-obsess about it. You're not going to nag them about it for the next 6 months because remember that problem that so-and-so caused? That's crisis management. And it's killing your team. It's killing your company culture. It's killing your organization. Don't let it kill you too. So if you've got a crisis to share, I'd love to hear about it because everybody likes a little look onto the crash and do a little gaper's block. How about you share a little bit with us? And what did you do about it? Did you manage it or did you provide leadership? And do that in the comments because we all need to learn better how to avoid crisis management and do some crisis leadership. And thanks for being part of the Do-Over Show. Please, could you tap the like button? Because it really helps. And while you're down there telling us about your crisis, how about you subscribe and ring the notification bell so you don't have the crisis of missing the next episode. I'm so glad you found me and I found you. Thanks.